Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Swam Vishnupat Param Svraj Kacharya Shrotar Shata Svangre Sabhacharan Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Krantarachima Bhaktam Ki Jai Anantakoti Vaishnarindu Ki Jai Nitya Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bala. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna, today we are reading Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 1, Questions by Vidura, Text 28. Kachit varuta dipatir yadunam Kachit varuta dipatir yadunam Pradyumna aste sukhamanga viraha Pradyumna aste sukhamanga viraha Yam rukmani bhagavato pilepe Yam rukmani bhagavato pilepe Aradya vipran smaram adisarge Aradya vipran smaram adisarge Kachit varuta dipatir yadunam Pratyumna aste sukhamanga viraha Yam rukmini bhagavato pilepe Aradya vipran smaram adisarga Kachit varuta dipatir yadunam Pradyumna aste sukhamanga viraha Yam rukmini bhagavato apilebhe Aradya vipran smaram adisarga Kachit Vedar Varuta of the military Adipatihi Commander-in-Chief Yadunam of the Yadus Pradyumna the son of Krishna named Pradyumna Aste is Sukham happy Anga O Uddhava Viraha the great warrior Yam whom Rukmini the wife of Krishna named Rukmini Bhagavataha from the personality of Godhead Abhidebhe got as a prize Aradya pleasing Vipran Brahmanas Smaram Cupid Kamadev Adisarga in his previous life. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Abhayacharan Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. O Uddhava, please tell me how is Pradyumna, the commander-in-chief of the Yadus, who was Cupid in a former life? Rukmini bore him as her son from Lord Krishna by the grace of Brahmanas whom she placed. Purport. According to Srila Jiva Goswami's mother, Cupid or Kamadev is one of the eternal associates of Lord Krishna. Jiva Goswami has explained this very elaborately in his treatise Krishna Sandarbha. So we'll read on to more texts. Text 29. Kachit sukham satvata vrishni boja dasharha kanam adipasa aste yam abhyasin chatapatra netro nripasanasham pariritya durat. O my friend, tell me whether Ugrasena, the king of the Sattvatas, Vrishnis, Bojas and Dasharhas is now doing well. He went far away from his kingdom, leaving aside all hopes of his royal throne, but Lord Krishna again installed him. Text 30. Kachittare samyasuta satriksha aste graniratinam sadusambaham asutayam cham bhavati pratadya devam guham yompi kayadritogre. O gentle one, does Samba farewell? He exactly resembles the son of the personality of Godhead. In a previous birth he was born as Kartikeya in the womb of the wife of Lord Shiva, and now he has been born in the womb of Jambavati, the most enriched wife of Krishna. Purport. Lord Shiva, one of the three qualitative incarnations of the personality of Godhead, is the plenary expansion of the Lord. Kartikeya, born of him, is on the level of Pradyumna, another son of Lord Krishna. When Lord Shri Krishna descends into the material world, all his plenary portions also appear with him to exhibit different functions of the Lord. But for the pastimes at Vrindavan, all functions are performed by the Lord's different plenary expansions. Vasudeva is a plenary expansion of Narayana. When the Lord appeared as Vasudeva before Devaki and Vasudeva, he appeared in his capacity as Narayana. Similarly, all the demigods of the heavenly kingdom appeared as associates of the Lord in the forms of Pradyumna, Samba, Uddhava, etc. It is learned here that Kamadev appeared as Pradyumna, Kartikeya as Samba, and one of the Vasus as Uddhava. All of them served in the different capacities in order to enrich the pastimes of Krishna. Om Akhyarati Mirandasya Krananshana Shalakaya Chakshuran Meditam Yena Tasma Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manopishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadate Svaparantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uta Barakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sarkarshatam Sahaganarakutam Tanvitam Tam Sachivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parichana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakharvitamshta Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gorange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhana Sute Devi Pranamame Hare Priya Vancha kalpatarubhascha kripa sindhubha evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, welcome to Srimad Bhagavatam class. So, we are reading how after Vidura was traveling on his pilgrimage and how he finally met Uddhava, one great devotee and personal friend of Lord Krishna, the closest friend of Krishna in Dwarka and Mathura. And so, naturally, Vidura first of all inquires about Krishna and all his devotees. And although in fact we know that Vidura knew it already, if I remember rightly, I think even before meeting Uddhava, he knew of the disappearance of them. But still he inquires, and first we heard how he inquired about the Lord himself, and Prabhupada explained to her that because if the Lord is well, then we can understand then his devotees are well as well, so that's why he first inquired about the Lord. Although of course that shows the different bhava, their mellow, their relationship with the Lord being very intimate, not being one in just neutral or in a servant, Shanto Dasya Ras, but because then you would understand that, well, the Supreme Lord, he is always well. He's always the Master, he's always the Supreme Enjoyer, so I can only hope to somehow get an opportunity to serve him, that he will accept my service in humility. So that's, of course, generally the mood that everyone has towards the Lord as a servant. But then in more intimate relationships, then there is actually concern for the Lord. And that's a great mercy of the Lord, of course. That's to those whom he reveals himself more closely and accepts the position as if he would be inferior, as if he would depend on the devotee. Already in some of it in Sakya Ras, and then especially, of course, in Vatsalya Ras and Madhurya Ras. And so we heard that, and then further, how yesterday then he heard about how he inquired first about then Krishna's parents, Vasudeva, and now in today's verses we hear about the sons of Krishna. First about Pradyumna, and then further about in text further down about Samba, and before in 29 about King Ugrasena, whom Krishna reinstalled after Ugrasena's own son Kamsa had thrown him off the throne, and Krishna, of course, after killing Kamsa, reinstalled Ugrasena as the rightful king. He didn't himself want to be the king there. There's whole pastimes behind that ultimately it's all the will of Krishna, and so Ugrasena is also one of his dear devotees, so he reinstalled him there. So first in text 28, there's a very short purport, but Prabhupada points out there that according to Srila Jiva Goswami, that Smara, Cupid or Kamadev, so we have three names here for Cupid, that he is actually one of the eternal associates of Lord Krishna. Because otherwise we know Cupid is generally in the material world, he is one of the demigods. He's the demigod who plays a big role in putting the jivas into illusion by giving us this feeling of false love, of material love, of becoming completely engulfed in thinking there's this one other person who is my life and soul and who can give me all happiness, and I do my everything for that relationship, for that so-called love. So that's what Cupid does by shooting his arrows, and so that's his role here as a demigod. But as we learn from here, from Srila Jiva Goswami, that actually he also has an eternal form as Cupid himself in the spiritual world, as an eternal associate of Krishna. And similarly, heard even there's we have upstairs, we have this beautiful chart about the whole universe, spiritual world and material universes, and there it shows also that there's also the other main demigods. They also have a spiritual form as well, such as Indra, Varuna, and all of them. They are in Vaikuntha as eternal devotees, servants, as protectors or some kind of relationships like that with the Lord. There is Narayan. So it's not only Cupid, but of course, generally, first we teach that the demigods that we know, that people know here, they are not eternal associates. They are that's just positions in the material world, filled in different yuga cycles, but different jivas who become qualified enough to do that service. But we know that's generally not pure devotional service. They recognize the supremacy of Krishna and serve him, but they still have material desires that they want to fulfill by doing the service. Like in the heavenly planets, there's so much material enjoyment, way superior to ours here. So generally we don't say those things in the beginning because it would confuse people, but actually still there is eternal forms of them as well in the spiritual world, such as of Cupid. And maybe briefly a few words and Cupid, he played his pastime with with Krishna as Pradyumna, as his first son with his first wife, Queen Rukmini. And yeah, there's in Krishna book, and of course from 10th canto Bhagavatam, there's actually quite a lot of in the pastimes given there about the background of Pradyumna and the whole, and Rukmini being the foremost queen, she is the one who gets the most attention there in how Krishna married Queen Rukmini. Is amazing pastimes there. And like it's mentioned here, by the grace of Brahmanas so Rukmini bore him as her son from Lord Krishna by the grace of Brahmanas whom she pleased. Because we know, maybe just take out briefly a few points, that why by the grace of Brahmanas? Because her father, even though her father, his name was Rukmino, forgot the name of his father. I think similar also, like her brother was Rukmi, she was Rukmini, and I think he had a similar name, forgot. But so her father actually knew that she wants Krishna, and she also wanted him to be his son-in-law, but because her brother was so determined to get her married to his friend, Shishupal, right? Yeah. Who, of course, is a demon, just as Rukmi, her brother, himself. So that's why she then, when she was about to be married, actually on the very day, or on the day before, like at that time, she wrote a letter and sent that letter with one Brahmana, because she knew Brahmanas, they are in Vedic times, real Brahmanas, they are completely trustworthy, they would never lie and they would never break trust. So if they get the service of relaying a message, then they will just do that and they won't misuse it in any way. Because actually she wrote very intimately there, of course, appealing to Krishna to accept him as a wife, but not simply accept like in a very dramatic way. She even gave him instructions, so when you should come, how you should kidnap me. Because she told him that when the only opportunities, because I'm here always surrounded by all the people in the palace, by my relatives, so there's no possibility for me to run away. So the only chance is when on the day, like, I don't know if it's same day or day before, but before the actual marriage, that they go to a temple of like we hear a bit later about the wife of Lord Shiva, there with the name Amba, I think, or I'm not totally sure, similar to that temple or Ambika, and so to get her blessings because we know Lord Shiva is considered the greatest husband other than Krishna in terms of at least of the people relate to here from the material world, and Mother Parvati is the most chaste wife, so they are the ideal couple. So they pray. It's tradition to pray to Mother Parvati for the blessings to get a good husband, to have a good marriage. So she said, when we go to that temple, when I'm outside, that's the time when you have to come and catch me. And so, of course, Krishna does that, and there's a dramatic fight by all those demonic princes who are envious of Krishna and want to stop them. And of course, Krishna defeats them. Then when he is about to kill her brother, Queen Mother Rukmini appeals to Krishna not to kill him, and so he pardons him, but he defames him, like cutting off his beard or hair and things like that. And that's how, by the grace of Brahmanas, because a Brahmana sent this important message to Krishna. Although, of course, we know Krishna is omniscient, but in his pastimes he plays the role of like that, as if he wouldn't know, as if he would depend on the service of devotees like that Brahmana here. And so then, and their son is then Pradyumna, who is an incarnation of Cupid, as we hear here. Although, as we said, Cupid in the material world is is usually a Jiva who fills that post. So even though Jiva Goswami explains Cupid is there in the spiritual world as an eternal associate, the Cupid we see here is not that same Cupid. So, but then in Krishna's pastimes, what happened is, and I don't fully understand it, it's a bit complicated, I just mentioned a little bit of what I remember reading. It's explained in the 10th canto in more detail in the purports there. That then those, like in case of also of many of the Yadus and many, even of Nanda Maharaj, Madhya Yashoda, all those devotees, that actually many times there is one Jiva in that pastime who was in the previous life still in the material world, but a devotee, but not perfected yet fully, and so they got the opportunity to participate in that role with Krishna, and simultaneously there, as we know, they're Nityasiddhas, they're eternally in the spiritual world. So there's a Nityasiddha Jiva and a Sadhana Siddha Jiva simultaneously. So it's quite inconceivable and hard to understand, but so I just mentioned because when we hear the Pradyumna, an incarnation of Cupid, doesn't, on the one hand, it doesn't mean that Cupid is the one we generally speak of is necessarily a pure devotee, eternal associate. No, he's a demigod, but there is the form of Cupid also simultaneously in the spiritual world as an eternal associate, and so yeah, and Pradyumna, the story. Okay, maybe. Yeah, basically, so I try to remember. So in his former life, I don't remember properly. Somehow his body was burned. He lost his body, and then his wife, worshipped, I think, Lord Shiva somehow, and then then he was born in the next life. But actually, he was after his birth, he was taken away, and he was by one demon, I think, and then he was thrown in the sea and eaten by a fish, and so eventually then he landed in the form of being in the fish first, or among the fish, in the palace where his actual wife was serving there, and so then they eventually that was when he was a baby. So then he grew up very quickly, and she took care of him, and then turned out that actually she revealed it one day to him her conjugal feelings for him, not as a mother, and so then eventually they reunited as they were in the previous life. And so then text 29 was about Vidura inquiring about Ugrasena, and he mentioned that he went far away from his kingdom, leaving aside all hopes of his royal throne, but Lord Krishna again installed him. So we know that he didn't didn't even aspire when, like, after Kamsa threw him out, he didn't even aspire to become king again, didn't even hope for it, but Krishna reinstalled him. And then text 30 was where Vidura inquired about Samba, who is another son of Lord Krishna, another one of his main queens. We know there's Rukmini, first queen, then Satyavati, right? Or no, what's her name? Satyavati? So no, Satyabhama, the second queen, and Shambhavati is, I think, the third queen then, or because he first got from Satrachit. That's the same pastime actually, where he from Satrachit, his daughter was Satyabhama, and in the same pastime then that was when for the jewel, when he went to the forest, and where the jewel ended up with Jambavan, and so then after fighting with Jambavan, then he got Jambavati as his third wife. So I'll quickly read the text again. So Vidura is saying, "O gentle one, does Samba fare well? He exactly resembles the son of the personality of Godhead. In a previous birth, he was born as Kartikeya in the womb of the wife of Lord Shiva. And now he has been born in the womb of Jambavati, the most enriched wife of Krishna." So, again, interestingly, Vidura mentions here about the previous life of Samba. And in that case, being that of Kartikeya, another chief demigod. We know is the commander-in-chief of the demigods, of their army. So, and yeah, he's a son of Lord Shiva. And quickly look for the Prabhupada again, which is quite technical, which Prabhupada explained about. First about Lord, he says that Lord Shiva, one of the three qualitative incarnations of the personality of Godhead, is the plenary expansion of the Lord. So that we know Lord Shiva is one of the Gunavartas, qualitative incarnation. So, as well as Lord Brahma for a mode of passion, Lord Shiva for a mode of ignorance, and Lord Vishnu himself for a mode of goodness. And but of course we know at the same time Lord Shiva, he's above Lord Brahma, because Lord Brahma is also supposed to be filled by Jivas if someone is qualified, otherwise the Lord himself has to take it up sometimes. But Lord Shiva is never the case that the Lord has to take up, because Lord Shiva is almost like the Lord himself. He's eternal, and even though he has the pastime as if he would be born from Lord Brahma, for example, and be just as one of the other demigods, but he does eternally exist in Maheshtam and in Kailas, which is between the spiritual world and the material world, but eternal. And yeah, and of course, and he's mentioned as Vaishnavanam Yatashambhu, as the greatest of the Vaishnavas. So, and Prabhupada mentions here that Kartikeya, born of him, is on the level of Pradyumna, another son of Lord Krishna. So, okay, I don't want to speculate into it, but it might be, similar with Kartikeya also. I'm not sure if he also has internal form in the spiritual world. And, but generally it's a demigod position filled by different jivas. And so Prabhupada continues, when Lord Sri Krishna descends into the material world, all his plenary portions also appear with him to exhibit different functions of the Lord. But for the pastimes of Vrindavan, all functions are performed by the Lord's different plenary expansions. Vasudeva is a plenary expansion of Narayan. When the Lord appeared as Vasudeva before Devaki and Vasudeva, he appeared in his capacity as Narayana. So but the main point we understand here is that when people hear, okay, Krishna, he performed his pastimes, he descended 5,000 years ago here on this earth, then they might think of, okay, even if they accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then they might not have the understanding that if Krishna appears, it means also he comes with all his plenary expansions, including first of all his personal plenary expansions such as Narayan or Vasudeva, which he is the form he first actually exhibited when he appeared as the son of Devaki and Vasudeva in the prison of Kamsa. And not only that, we know that he I'll finish the Prabhupada and then mention that. So, similarly, all the demigods of the heavenly kingdom appeared as associates of the Lord in the forms of Pradyumna, Samba, Uddhava, etc. It is learned here that Kamadev appeared as Pradyumna, Kartikeya as Samba, and one of the Vasus as Uddhava. All of them served in the different capacities in order to enrich the pastimes of Krishna. So, and similarly, as Prabhupada explains here, when Krishna appears, not only does he come with his personal different expansions, but also with always with all the devotees, eternal associates to whom he performs his pastimes with. And as I mentioned before, he comes with them, with the Nitya Siddhas, and at the same time simultaneously gives chance to jivas who have come up to that level of purity where they can participate in the pastime, that they simultaneously take those roles as well. Such as here of Pradyumna so as the role who was filled like Cupid, who was Cupid in the previous life, this Jiva then could appear here with Pradyumna, as Pradyumna, and got his full perfection there. Same thing with Kartikeya, who appeared then as Samba. And appeared means there's the Nitya Siva and the Sadhana Siddha. And similarly with Uddhava. We know Uddhava himself, of course, is also Nitya Siddha, eternal associate. But as one of the Jivas in the material world, one of the Vasus who in the heavenly planets appeared also as Uddhava. And it's quite inconceivable, but it just again shows the amazing, inconceivable mercy of the Lord, how He can arrange for always for the perfect conditions for all the Jivas to get more and more close to Him, and even to such an extent that we are allowed to directly participate in His pastimes in which He performs in the material world. Although material world we know means, yes, it is geographically, you can say yes, it looks like it's in this universe. We can locate it. It's there in what's now called India, in like Vrindavan and the other dhams. But actually, we know, like Prabhupada mentions, I think I read it just recently in the 4th canto. We know it actually, but we might sometimes not like consider it so deeply that as soon as the Lord is there, as soon as the Lord appears, means it is not the material world, it is the spiritual world. The Lord in His personal form, He never goes out of the spiritual world. And Prabhupada actually, it's in 4th canto 11th chapter, text 26 in the purport. Prabhupada gives quotes there as one evidence. Bhagavad Gita, famous verse 9.4. I think that's Maya tatam idam sarvam jagat avyaktamurtina matstani sarvabhutani nachaham tejavastitaha. Where Krishna explains about His different features of the Absolute Truth, as we know from Bhagavatam, Vadanti tattvavidas tattvam yatnyam advayam brahmati paramatmati bhagavaniti shaptyate. About His Brahman feature, His Paramatma feature, the Super Soul, and His Bhagavan feature as the Supreme Personality of Godhead Himself. So Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita that Maya tatam sarvam idam jagat avyaktamurtina, that I pervade everything in my impersonal form, jagat avyaktamurtina, avyakta as in the unmanifest form. And by that I pervade the whole universe. But then, 3rd line, Matstani Sarva Bhutani, that all living entities are situated in me. That pertains to His Super Soul feature, that everything rests on Him as a Super Soul. He's even not only in the hearts of all living entities, but even in every atom. So, unless like the Brahman feature alone is not enough, from His impersonal feature from Brahman, then comes the Mahatattva, and then from that manifestation of all the elements, so that gives rise to all the matter in the material world. But so it's the basis of all of that. But we know matter, it can't do anything and it can't even exist without Him also personally, but as His localized feature, not in His dynamic, original, personal feature. As the Super Soul, He has to be there as well. So that's that. But then the 4th line, He explains Achintya Veda Veda Tattva, that still in His personal Bhagavan feature, He's not there. He's aloof from that. Nachaham tesha vastitaha, but I'm not in them. And so Prabhupada takes this as evidence of Krishna Himself, that He personally, He is never in the material world. even if he appears in the material world, then that, where he appears, that is to be considered the spiritual world. Because, it cannot be that he's in, personally he has nothing to do with matter. He does through the inferior features of him, through his expansions as super soul, or then further as his Brahman, bodily effulgence as Brahman. And so and this means that not only where he takes his incarnations in his Prakata Lila, those pastimes manifest to even our material eyes, but that pertains everywhere where the Lord is personally, like Prabhupada explains in the purport here also, that it means even the temples of the Lord, because we know even in his Archa Vigraha form, such as he as Shri Shri Radha Gopinath, he is personally the Lord, even though he accepts mercifully a form which again is manifest, visible even to our material eyes, even though we don't have the qualification to see the Lord. Like Prabhupada so many times, when people challenged, he would explain that this mentality is wrong, that we generally, people that we want, think, well, if there is a God, then he should make himself visible to me. No, it's not like that. If there is a God, then you should qualify yourself to see him. And because, in his personal form, he doesn't reveal himself generally so easily, because why would he? It's actually his mercy also that he manifests in the material world, that he hides himself. Because if he wouldn't hide himself personally, I'm saying hide, quote unquote, then there wouldn't be the possibility of us misusing our free will. And if we can't misuse our free will, that would mean there would be no real free will. Free will means there has to be some little but full independence in terms of that you can decide that you either want Krishna or not. And so it's his mercy that he, another nice verse in Bhagavad Gita, so verse number where he explains that I'm there like material world is just like pearls on a string, that if you put pearls on a string fully, that it's filled up with pearls, then at the end you can't see the string actually. Even though without the string the pearls wouldn't be there arranged like that. So similarly, Krishna, even though without Krishna there would be no material world, there would be even in so many levels of understanding, as we just mentioned about his Brahman feature, Paramatma feature, that his personal touch is necessary. First of all, in the creation itself, simply by his glance only on Prakriti, is activated, and then many times his glance is needed. So he is needed, of course, in so many ways. But when you look then at the material world by his mercy, it looks like there is no Krishna, and that's how then jivas can engage in sense gratification and forgetfulness of Krishna. And so it's also his mercy, but to see the Lord personally, that he only reveals to those who actually want to see him, who are ready to see him as the Lord, as knowing themselves as eternal servants. Although, as we mentioned in the beginning, of course, in the higher stages, it's even that the Lord takes even higher pleasure if the jiva is so surrendered to him, and the love is so intense that he wants to take care of the Lord, he has the mood of, you are my Lord, not I'm yours to be maintained by you, but rather, you are mine, I have to take care of you, I have to do whatever I can to please you. Your pleasure is dependent on me. Like in terms of, basically that's when the gopis, that's their main, they are even like Vatsalya Bhav, like of Mother Yashoda, there is that more about the protective mood of I have to take care of you, whereas then of the gopis, for them the mood is then more that you can't be happy without us. We have to somehow arrange that you can be happy. We have to give you pleasure. So that's in the highest stages. But Yeah, but still, as we said, Krishna is so merciful to also appear as the Acha Vigraha, even though we are not qualified to see him. And still, we shouldn't forget that it is still personally Krishna himself, Shri Shri Radha Gopinath here. And so that is the spiritual world as well. Yeah, thank you for your attention. Grantarachima Bhagavatam Ki.